everybody, this is Kyra from Cocina. Today I'm going to be making un bistec guisado. In English that means roast beef. It has a lot of flavor. My husband's Dominican if you didn't already know. So today I'm going to be bringing those flavors to you. Let's get started. So here I have about 3 pounds of Angus chuck roast. I usually use beef shoulder, but this works just as well. And what I've done is cut it up into tiny little pieces, which will make it a lot easier to tenderize once we get it in the pan. Alright, so let's add our seasonings. So here I have adobo, oregano, black pepper, and garlic powder. I've just mixed it up here, and I'm gonna just pour this all over the meat, just like that. And then to finish this off, I'm gonna add 2 packets of Sazon by Goya. So I'm just gonna open that and put it right in there. Alright, and then after you do that, you're just going to stir it to make sure all of the seasoning gets on all of the meat. Okay, so I got all of my seasoning on the meat. Alright, so I'm just going to leave that there for a moment and head over to the stove. Okay, so now I'm going to take my olive oil and add about 1 to 2 tablespoons to a pan on medium-high heat. So while that's warming up, I also have 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. And you might be wondering, why brown sugar with meat? Well, it actually caramelizes the meat and gives it really good flavor. So I'm going to add that to my pan. And just break it up a little bit, just to make sure that it heats up evenly. So that's what it looks like. So I'm going to leave it in there for about a minute, but keep an eye on it. If you burn the sugar, your meat won't taste good. So you just want to make sure you get it until it's a dark brown. Alright, so now as you can see, the brown sugar has gotten a little darker, and that's about the color you want. You don't want it to turn too dark. That'll actually give a horrible flavor to your meat. So when it's that color, what I'm going to do is just take the meat that I seasoned and add it straight to the oil. And when you hear that sizzle, that's when you know it's the right temperature. So put all of your meat in the pan. Okay, so all of the meat is in the pan. What you need to do now is make sure you turn it to get all of that oil and brown sugar on all of the meat. Remember, you don't want your sugar to burn, so make sure you keep turning it. Okay, so the heat is on about medium-high, and as you can see, everything has started to boil in the pan, which is what we want. So I'm just going to give it one more stir to make sure all of those seasonings are covering all of the meat. So I stirred it. What I'm going to do now is take a lid and top it, and we're just going to leave it there until all the meat is brown. So you want to just make sure that you seal in those juices. So I would give it about 10 minutes, keep an eye on it, and then come back. Okay, so while that's going, I'm also going to make rice with corn, which goes great with this meat. So to start, I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of oil, olive oil, to my pot over here. And I'm just gonna wait until that oil is heated up. That way I can add my rice and toast it a little bit, which gives it a lot more flavor. Okay, so the meat has been in the pan for about 10 minutes. It's nice and brown. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add about a tablespoon of dried cilantro. You can use fresh cilantro if you want, but for me it's easier to keep dry cilantro. So whichever one you prefer, go ahead and add that right to the meat. Okay, and then I also have 6 Spanish olives, which give it great flavor as well. So go ahead and pour that in there. Alright, so I added my cilantro and olives. I'm just going to give it a little stir. Alright, and then to that, I'm going to take 1 cup of water and pour that right over it as well. Give it one more little quick stir just to get all that seasoning in there. Now, just going to put that lid back over it and cover it for about 25 to 30 minutes to make sure that meat gets nice and tender. Back to the rice. So my oil has been heating up for about 10 minutes. What I'm going to do is just take 3 cups of white rice and add it right to the oil. And you can hear a little sizzle in there, and that's exactly what you want. Go ahead and just take a spoon and make sure that all of the rice is coated with the oil. So again, this just seals in the flavor of the rice and gives it a little nuttiness, which is really good. Alright, so very important, what you want to do, you want to make sure that the rice is nice and toasted, but again, you don't want it to burn. And you know that your rice is burned when it starts to turn brown. So go ahead and keep an eye on it, just move it around, and I would say about 2 minutes, then we'll add the water. Alright, so the rice has been toasting. It's time to add the water. So when making rice, if you make 3 cups of rice, you need to add 3.5 cups of water. That's to make sure that your rice comes out at the right consistency. So I have 3.5 cups of water. I'm going to add that right to the pan. And that sizzle lets you know that you did it right. Alright, so I'm also going to add about a teaspoon or maybe just a half teaspoon of salt to the rice. You can adjust the salt according to your own taste, but that's how we like it. So I added the salt. I'm just going to give it a little stir. And at this point, I'm also going to add some corn, which again, you wouldn't think that corn and rice would be good, but it's actually really good. So I'm going to take about, you can do half a can of corn, or if you want, you can just add the whole thing. Today I'm going to add the whole thing. So once you've done that, give it one more stir. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to put the lid on this rice. You want to turn it up until it reaches a boil, but then after that, go ahead and turn it down to a nice low heat. Let that cook for about 20 minutes until the rice gets nice and fluffy, and then you'll be done. Okay, so our meat has been cooking for about 25 or 30 minutes. As you can see, it's nice and juicy. And so now what we're going to do is add 1 packet of Goya chicken bouillon. So I'm just going to pour that right over. Okay, and then I'm also going to add about half a can of tomato sauce, and this is an 8-ounce can. So add 4 ounces of tomato sauce to the pan. Alright, so I added the tomato sauce. I'm going to give that a stir. And you really want it to be like a burgundy color, so I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of that 8-ounce can. You can also use tomato paste, just adjust as necessary. Alright, so I stirred that in. Finally, I have some chopped up onions and bell peppers. I'm going to go ahead and pour that in. And then stir it. Alright, so now that I've added the peppers and onions, I'm just going to let this simmer for about 15 more minutes with the lid on. And you want to make sure that it's kind of bubbling a little bit. So go ahead and crank up the heat to like a low medium. So we're finally done. As you can see, the meat is all done. The sauce is done. All we have to do now is serve our rice and put the meat in the bowl. So this is our rice. As you can see, it's nice and fluffy. We have the corn going on in there. It's gonna be really good. So I'm just going to put some rice right in. So we got our rice in there. Then I'm going to put our meat over the rice. Wow, look how that looks. Put that right over there. Alright. So this is our finished product, and it looks so good. This is so good. Thanks for watching Couples Cocina. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and make sure to follow us on social media.